Early in the morning of March 8, 1862, James Buchanan took the ironclad Merrimac on what was intended to be a trial run. The Merrimac steamed out of Gosport, Virginia, and instead immediately headed for the Union naval blockade outside Hampton Roads. The Merrimac steamed toward the USS Cumberland first, a large 30-gun frigate, and on its way shot a devastating blow to the USS Congress, also a 30-gun frigate. The Merrimac then made its way to the Cumberland and rammed the ship with its powerful iron ram. Eyewitnesses claim that the hole caused by the Merrimac was large enough to fit a horse and cart. The Cumberland immediately sank and only its masts rose above the sea. The Merrimac then headed back for the Congress, which was run aground. The immobile Congress was an easy target for the Merrimac. The Congress then raised its white flag of surrender and surrendered to the Merrimac.
Now, the Congress being run aground became an easy target for the Merrimac. The Merrimac began firing on the vulnerable ship, and instantly it turned into a massacre. Sailors on the ship began dying, so the Congress raised the white flag. 2 Confederate boats were sent to help unload prisoners and wounded, and Union batteries on shore fired on these boats, wounding a couple of people, of course. James Buchanan was so infuriated with the breach of military etiquette that he went up on top of the Merrimac and was angry and just yelling, and he was hit by a sharpshooter and wounded. The Merrimac then proceeded to fire hot shot, which is heated red-hot cannonballs at the Congress, and it burned and burned and burned and burned.
The USS Minnesota ran itself aground in an attempt to escape the Merrimac. Rather than attacking its prey, the Merrimac, led by Buchanan's replacement, Lieutenant Jones, headed back to Gosport, Virginia. After the Merrimac had retired for the evening, the Monitor made its way south. The Monitor had been completed as a rush job and would arrive in the nick of time to save the troubled Union fleet.
Well, you see, on March 8th, 1862, at around 9 p.m., as me and my buddy Jones was walking out of the pub one evening, we looked towards the harbor, and we looked out past the wreckage of what was the Congress and the Cumberland. They were both on fire. We thought we had won the day. We thought that the Merrimac was going to be the greatest naval invention in history, and we were going to defeat the Union. But as we looked towards the wreckage, we saw what happened to look like a cheese box on a raft, and it had the Union flag. It was about that time that Jones started cursing and throwing things and rocks into the harbor. Now, the very next day, on March 9th, early in the morning, the Merrimac made its way out to the Minnesota, and the Union ship guarded the Minnesota in one of history's most significant naval battles.
And you witnessed all this?
Yes, I did.
Did you really?
No, I didn't.
Confederates awoke the next morning, still celebrating the previous day's victories. The crew was anxious to return to the battle site and finish off the rest of the Union forces. Little did they know, they were about to engage in the most infamous naval battle of the Civil War. As the Merrimac approached the Minnesota, they saw a shape in the sea that they described as a boiler tanker being towed by the Minnesota. After realizing that this was in fact the Union's Ironclad, Lieutenant Jones proclaimed, "She could not have made her appearance at a more inopportune time for us."
The Merrimac fired its first shot a little after 8 a.m. The round sailed past the Monitor and struck the Minnesota, which responded with cannon fire of its own. The Ironclads then engaged in intense fighting for the next 4 hours, distances varying from hundreds of yards to point-blank range. The cannon fire from both ships was deflected by the opposing ship's armor. The Monitor had the advantage in that it could outmaneuver and dodge the Merrimac. However, the Merrimac had far superior firepower. Both the Merrimac and the Monitor made attempts to penetrate the other ship's armor using their rams, with no success. The most critical shot of the battle was fired by the Merrimac from point-blank range, striking the Monitor in the pilot house.
Captain Warden was peering through a slit watching the events unfold and was partially blinded by the exploding shell.
So, after Warden gets hit in the face with the cannonball, he is sent down to the medical room in the monitor, and Green is sent up to take his place. And in this amount of time, the monitor has literally zero control over itself, and it begins to drift away from where the Virginia is. And now, at this point, Jones decides, okay, the monitor has given up, we have won. And Jones says, we're going to turn the boat around. Now, since the Virginia was such a big and clumsy and awkward and slow ship, this process of turning around takes a very long time. So, in the process of turning around, the monitor regains control, with Green following the Warden's orders of attacking the Merrimac. So it comes from behind and it plans to attack, but sees that the Virginia is turning around and thus decides that it has given up, and the monitor believes they won. And at the same time, the Merrimac already believes that they won, so both sides believe that they won.
The battle concluded with no victor. Both of the ships returned to their ports damaged but not destroyed. This was the only major engagement that either of the ships participated in. However, neither ship survived the war. This was the first time in history that iron fought iron.